I'm going to do a training real quick on life insurance. I was thinking about all the different use cases that life insurance has. I think that the way that we normally present it is that it's income replacement, but there's many, many creative ways to use term life insurance. And the more ways you know how to use them, the more scenarios that you know that it could fit in, the more clients that you can help, the more money that you can make, right? So let's go through some of these insurance use cases, okay? So foundational use cases means what are the most common ways or reasons why people would need life insurance? Income replacement. Income replacement. This is the most obvious one. This is what Primerica believes in. That the number one reason why you get life insurance is to replace your income. How do you know you need to replace your income? Because there's somebody dependent on your income. So if someone is waiting for you to get paid so you can pay the mortgage so they can stay in a house, if someone is waiting for you to get paid so you can pay for school so they can go to school, then you are a provider and you have dependents. And anyone that has an income and also has dependents needs to protect their income, which is why we call life insurance income protection. That's a better way to describe in our business what life insurance is. Now, whole life companies will come up with a slew of other fake reasons why you need life insurance in terms of a cash value policy. We don't believe those things. We think there's ways to achieve results for retirement, savings, whatever, outside of a life insurance policy. And we don't recommend you do that within a life. But income replacement is the number one reason, okay? Another thing is final expenses. So I had a client that called me the other day and gave me some very sad news that it was the guy that was calling, it was his mother-in-law. So him and his wife were clients, and her mom, 1 week, I mean, she was fine. She didn't say, she said she didn't feel good. They put her in the hospital. They're like, oh my God, you have some type of cancer in the gallbladder, very sad. They immediately went into surgery. She pretty much never left the hospital. 1 week later, I mean, very crazy sad what this family's going through. So I was like, look, I'm going to help you with the claims process. I'm going to help you do everything. And he said, hey, we can't have the funeral because the funeral home wants the information for the life insurance company. So what that implies to me, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but what it implies is that the funeral home doesn't want to let them have the funeral unless they know that they're going to get paid. So when you have life insurance, Primerica basically pays it for you, and then they give you the rest in a death benefit. So final expenses are very, very, very expensive. If someone passes away internationally, I've paid multiple death claims. A lot of you guys are from different countries. You have family in different countries. What happens, right? If someone dies in Mexico, but you want to have the funeral here, what do you got to do? You got to what?
Ship the body.
You got to ship the body. How much does that cost? 80 grand. $80,000. It's not a joke. And then if you want to have a regular run-of-the-mill funeral, from what I've gathered with my own dad and other things, I mean, 15, 20, 25,000. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that just laying around. Usually, like, the 4 siblings get together and they got to come up with, 3-4 grand each. But at least with life insurance, it's like, hey, if I go, I don't want to put that burden on everyone. Let me just have those final expenses. So that's another reason why people get life insurance. Now, does that mean you should go out and buy a final expense policy? I mean, if you're 85 and we can't insure you and that's the only thing and they're going to give you 5 grand with no medical, I don't care, right? But and no one under the age of 65 should be buying a final expense policy. It's just one of the reasons why you buy life insurance. Mortgage protection. My friends that are realtors, they post on Instagram that I just sold this family a house. The family's so happy. They have the key, the fake key, right? And they take a picture in front of the house. And it's a very emotional decision. And you know what? To be honest, back in the day when I was growing up and when I first came into business, buying a home wasn't really that big of a deal because a home was 300 grand, 400 grand. Anybody could get approved for a loan. Interest rates were low. And there was very little underwriting on a loan too. I lived through that 2006, 7, 8 period. I used to interview kids. They were at Mason with me. They were 21. They'd be like, yeah, I just bought 2 properties. Like, you just have to put your name down. They give it to you. And that's why the whole world fell apart, right? But now, buying a home is kind of a big deal. If you're buying a home around here within like a 15, 20 mile vicinity, and depending on where you go out west even, I mean, it's no joke. You can't find anything under $800,000. You got to put $160,000 down. Your payment is insane. One of my friends just bought a house in Ashburn, of all places. Okay, Ashburn is not bad, but just the sheer amount of money. I'm just saying the money. Okay. $2 million home, Sheila. He had to put $600,000 down. Did I tell you guys the story? No. Right? It was a $1.65 million home. That to me looks just very normal. Okay, 1.65. In order to get the house cap, they had to, what do they call that? Overbid or whatever. Yeah. Right. So they had the offer was over ask. That's what it's called, right? Mm-hmm. Over ask. The offer was 1.8, so they got it because they gave the family an extra $150,000. So they closed at 1.8. They put $600,000 down, and their mortgage is $9,000 a month to live in Ashburn. I mean, yeah, that's an accomplishment. You just plunked down and I mean, it's impressive because he didn't even sell the other home. That's what's crazy. It's like, he has investments with us and all that stuff, and you're just coming up with $600,000, $9,000 a month expenses. So, I mean, it's a very emotional decision for people. A lot of people won't start a business, so for them, the most important thing was buying this home, buying this property, right? So if you work so hard to get the home, and it was you overcame so many hurdles, and it's a dream for a lot of people, wouldn't you want to protect it? Wouldn't it be dumb if you just did all this stuff to set your family up, and then you die at a young age, and they can't afford this home that you worked so hard for, and now the home is gone, which happens all the time. So some people sell life insurance on the premise that it is first and foremost mortgage protection, and I think that's genius as a sales pitch, because believe it or not, people care more about that than protecting their loved ones in terms of income. So it's an amazing play on words. Say, hey, you want to protect your income? It'll be fine. Hey, you want to protect your mortgage? Yeah, let me get that. So you have to have all this stuff in your mind so you can throw out different things and see what's going to turn this person on. Not everything is going to turn the same person into a believer of life insurance. Debt payoff. One of my clients died a year and a half ago. Now he had a $1.4 million policy with me that was left, but the guy had so many business loans and hard money loans, if you know what that is, right? That a lot of the life insurance, maybe $500,000, went to just pay off the debt. Not mortgage, they still have the mortgage. But they have lines of credits, like I said, business loans, all types of things. And when you get a loan, even on your business, a lot of times people think that, oh, it's the business, if the business goes under. No, when you get a loan, the lenders are smart. They know if your business goes under, we're not going to get the money. So what do they make you do? It's called a personal guarantee. They're not giving you the loan. SBA loan, small business. You want to start your little small business, right? They will give you a loan. But you know what they say? They say the word is recourse. Hey, if the business can't pay it or the business goes under, the recourse is what? You're going to pay. Personal guarantee. They'll take your kids' college savings. They'll take your investment. They'll put a lien on your house. Borrowing money is no joke. So you got to make sure that if you're doing these things, and sometimes this is called leveraging, right? If people leverage to get ahead financially, to buy a business, to buy whatever they want to do, to flip homes, to some project that they have. They borrow against one thing so they can do that. That's fine, but if things don't work out or you die and this whole thing hasn't been, you haven't completed this project, your family could be left with it, your wife or husband could be left with it, the life insurance will pay that off. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
family lifestyle maintenance, right? So income replacement is sort of like, you know, what do they need from me? I make 100 grand a year. Let me get an $800,000 policy. But sometimes people's lifestyles are beyond just the income. And so what the life insurance will do is it'll just ensure that your lifestyle will be protected. And this is important to some people. Like why? If my family leaves me, why would I want them to be worse off financially? It's like they already lost someone. Now I want them to start thinking about money every single day because they don't have enough of it. Is that right? It's my opinion, you know. And all for what? To go from 800 to 1.2 is what difference in cost, Sheila? You know? What's the difference in cost? If someone's like 800 or maybe they get 1.2, $30, $40? Nowadays, what doesn't cost $30, $40? Children's Education Fund. I sat with this guy on Tuesday, very good family. He owns like these, he's a psychiatrist, but he owns offices. He's a business owner. He makes over $1 million a year. And, you know, his kids want to go to NYU and American University and pretty much the most expensive schools that there are. And he's paying, you know, 70 grand a semester here and 80,000 a year there, and two of them are in college at the same time. And he's not getting loans, he's kind of just paying as he just takes chunks from his income, his bank account, he pays, but he's strapped because of it, even at $1 million a year. So if something happens to him, you got to make sure that those bills are still going to get paid. Like, you obviously want your kids to go to these nice colleges. If you're not here, how are they going to go? The life insurance. So again, which one is it that's going to make you be like, I get it, I need this? So you have to have these things in your mind. So if someone isn't being receptive, if they're not nodding, if they're not buying into this, how many different things that do you have in your arsenal that you can pull out and get their belief level up? Right? Spousal support. So I guess if like people get divorced and then you're paying alimony to your wife or husband, sometimes at court they make you get a life insurance policy to make sure, hey, if you're not around, we still got to make sure that this family's taken care of. Happens all the time. So it's called a divorce decree. Like if you're in the business long enough, you're going to be dealing with these things with people. Okay? So they have a divorce decree. The judge said you got to keep that policy. The problem is when it's a whole life and then they're stuck with it. But the judge will say you're not allowed to cancel the policy because of this reason here. Okay, how can we use it in business? Key person insurance, also called key man insurance. So if you are the person running the business, who has the right definition for this? What would you say, Richard?
Well, it's an owner or operator, either one.
Okay, so if you're the owner operator of the business, then you want to make sure you have insurance on yourself. So if you go, what needs to happen at that point?
Well, you would cross insure you and your partner. Say if you had 2 partners or 3 partners, you'd all indemnify each other. So if one guy dies, there's enough money to either replace that person or keep the business going with the other partners.
Yeah. So you can replace, or I think what happens is, in some cases, it buys out your portion for your family, right? So the life insurance buys out your piece and somehow you're bought out from it, but a lot of business people, they will incorporate that. Business loan collateralization, okay? So if you go to SBA, which is a government agency, and you say, I want a small business loan to open up whatever it is that you're opening up, restaurant, whatever, you borrow the money. Number one, they're going to you have to personally guarantee this. So if the business doesn't work out, they're gonna get it from you, personally. You are not protected personally when you get these types of loans. Another thing that they're gonna have you do is they're gonna make you get a life insurance policy where they are the beneficiary. This has happened. People come to me, they say, hey, I need what's that form called? It's not consignment, it's something else. But basically,
Assignment. Assign.
Collateral assignment.
Yeah.
Okay, it's called a collateral assignment, and it's a form that Primerica has where now you're putting this lender as a beneficiary. And Then I've had people die when there's a collateral assignment, and I was like, hey, we're getting $1 million, right? They're like, no, they have a business loan, they owe 300. We're sending 300 over there, the family gets the other 7. Because the government is like, we're either gonna get it from you while you're alive, or if you die, we're getting our money back. Succession planning. How would you say, Richard, that comes into play?
Well, if you have one owner of a business and they die, that owner might have a spouse or a family that doesn't want to step in and operate part of the business. You gotta pay out that person and let the other owners keep operating the business.
Yeah.
Okay?
Estate and wealth planning, right? Estate tax liquidity. So maybe you die, the estate owes taxes or whatever, and then the life insurance will pay the taxes, so you don't have to go into the estate. Maybe there's properties and businesses, they don't want to disrupt that. There's been times in the past where there's some famous story about an owner of an NFL team, owner died, and then the kids had to sell the team to cover the estate taxes. Now there may not be an estate tax, or it's above a certain amount or something like that. It is above a certain amount. Wealth transfer, charitable giving, equalizing inheritance among heirs. So when you sit down with wealthy people, this is a big thing, planning the inheritance. And so what'll happen is they'll say, okay, this kid we're gonna give 2-3 properties, this kid 2-3 properties, but maybe it's disproportionate, so we'll have a life insurance policy that makes up for that other $200,000-300,000. I'm around people that are doing this, and it's like really, they want to make sure that when they're gone, their kids aren't going to be pissed off. And apparently they do. They're pissed off. All right, what are some other niche use cases? Insurance on children for future insurability. So Sheila talked about this last time. You do a child rider, $50,000, and we talk about how there's no guarantee that you're going to be insurable in the future. To some extent, low probability, but to some extent it can happen to a child as well. So if you put the child rider on them when they're kids, then there's guaranteed insurance conversion into an adult policy when they turn, between 18 and 26 or whatever. We'll do up to, what is it, 150,000?
125.
Up to 125,000.
Or times
So
5,
you are guaranteed to at least have 125,000 with Primerica if, God forbid, something happens. Divorce settlement planning, so someone says, all right, so we own this house together, it has a ton of equity. I just dealt with this with a client. So it's in Arlington, we got it at a good price, I really don't want to sell this property, okay? And so they come up with these unique ways to structure where the other person will get paid out outside of having to go in and sell this, do that, give away this, take a loan against. So, sometimes it works into that as well. This is cool, a policy laddering strategy. Some people like it. I don't think it makes a huge difference in cost, but some people do like this, okay? They're calling it policy laddering. We call it custom term, where someone has a 10-year term, let's say for $1 million, and then they have a 15-year term for another $250,000, and then they have a 20-year term, right? And that will be for another $250,000. So the idea is that in the first 10 years, you have 3 policies simultaneous, so you have 1.5 million. After 10 years, maybe your obligations have been met. Now you're continuing these 2 policies for 500. In another 5 years, you'll just have that last 250. So this is called policy laddering or a custom term. All right. So hopefully you got some good notes on that, some good explanation. Now we're going to have Tia come up here.